So I do want to start with baseball because it's funny. And the question I want to pose here is whether you're finally on the side of the players. If you listen to this show at any point really the last few months, you've heard me time and time again defend the players. Starting with Blake Snell when he went on his Twitch rant talking about how he's not going to play unless he gets his money. He wants his, and he's not going to risk his life, risk his health for basically, a quarter of the pay that he's supposed to get. It's usually you get hazard pay. Usually you get paid more to take a risk. Well, Major League Baseball is not only wanting their players to take a risk, they're going to pay them less to do so. And over the weekend, a deal happened. News happened on Saturday that really, I think, hammers home the point. If you are on the fence, right? If you listen to what I say, where I'm really backing the players and I'm taking the owners to task here, saying that they should be the ones absorbing the loss, even for one short season, because in the end, their valuation of the franchise is only going up, and they're still making money hand over fist, despite having high payroll and everything else going on. We've had owners come out and speak publicly about how they don't make any money, and really, when it comes down to this over the weekend, timing is everything, right? That's the old saying, as we know, timing is everything. And the last few weeks, we had Tom Ricketts, the owner of the Cubs, first talk to ESPN, basically saying how the teams don't make a profit. All of the money after the expenses are taken out, all the revenue that comes in after the expenses are taken out, all that money goes back into the team. Mr. Ricketts says, as an owner, we give that money to the general manager and say, how can you make our team better? Then Bill DeWitt last week followed that one up, the owner of the Cardinals, by going on local radio 590 The Fan in St. Louis and basically saying baseball is not that profitable. Owning a team is not that profitable. So lately, it started with the players speaking out, right? Speaking of their frustrations, and a lot of people turn on the players. Obviously, again, starting with Blake Snell, a lot of people were turned off by Blake Snell, a millionaire himself, and a lot of millionaire players complaining that they're not going to make a lot of money. When again, unemployment is high, we're in the middle of a pandemic, and social unrest is occurring. Get on the field and play. Take your $500,000, take your $1 million that you're going to make this year, go out on the field and stop complaining. But now, I think the tide has slowly been turning, in part because you see the owners now speaking and basically trying to cry poor. And I've hammered that home again week after week after week. But like I said, timing is everything. Because Saturday afternoon, in case you missed it, this is what happened. The rich got richer. MLB, and obviously their owners, signed an extension with Turner Sports. And that extension will start in 2022. They will get paid $3.29 billion, with a B, $3.29 billion to continue their rights to broadcast games on Sundays and also to have basically half the playoffs. They've been broadcasting the NL playoff series on their network, on TBS. Turner is now signed an extension for $3.29 billion for 7 years starting in 2022. Averages out to about $470 million a season. So timing's everything. 2 weeks ago, you have Tom Ricketts saying that, all the profits, all the money they generate, which isn't a lot to begin with, he claims, goes back into the team. Then you have the Cardinals owner, Bill DeWitt Jr., comes out and say baseball is not that profitable. And then what happens after Bill DeWitt says that? 5 days later, after he says those words, baseball is not profitable, the industry itself is not that profitable, MLB and the owners, which they're getting the money, signed a $3.29 billion deal with Turner. And it gets better. It gets better because guess what? Turner isn't the exclusive home for nationally televised baseball games, right? You have ESPN Sunday Night Baseball. You have ESPN Wednesday Night Baseball. Fox has the World Series. 3 national networks that broadcast games and playoff games throughout the Major League Baseball season. So if you go back, Fox had their extension back in 2018. You know what that extension's worth? Because again, remember, they have the World Series, the exclusive rights to the World Series. They paid $5.1 billion. And it gets better. It gets better. Because ESPN now has their deal with Major League Baseball, and their rights are up after 2021. So you just got $5.1 billion from Fox 2 years ago. You literally, 2 days ago, the ink is barely dry on a $3.29 billion deal with Turner Sports. And you're about to make hand over fist and get somewhere in the neighborhood of between $3 and $5 billion from ESPN when their deal ends in 2021. So all 3 of those networks combined, Turner, Fox, ESPN, Major League Baseball brings in about $1.55 billion a year from those 3 national networks alone. $1.55 billion per season just from the national television contracts. Think about that. And think about that the next time you have owners, whether it's Tom Ricketts, whether it's Bill DeWitt Jr., whether it's any other owner that wants to come out and speak and cry poor about how they have no money. Remember, they are bringing in $1.5 billion a season just to have their games nationally broadcast on Fox, on ESPN, and Turner Sports throughout the regular season and the postseason. And not to mention, let's keep going with timing because, like I said, timing's everything, right? What else happened on Saturday? That was a big one for the owners. What else news-wise came out that put another feather in the owner's cap? Guess what? Saturday night, the Major League Baseball Players Association, the organization themselves that is frustrated, that is fighting to not get a second pay cut, mind you. Remember, they're already taking a first pay cut where they're going to get paid just the amount of games they play. So if you play 50 games, you're going to get paid for 50 games. If you play 75 games, you're getting paid for 75 games. So they already, even if they play 82 at the most, which they're not going to, best case scenario, Major League Baseball players would lose half their salary in 2020. But guess what? As we saw, the deals keep getting pushed on the table. MLB Player Association puts out a deal. MLB rejects it. MLB puts out a deal. The Player Association rejects it. Guess what happened on Saturday night? Hours after this Turner deal was announced for $3.29 billion, MLBPA, led by their head man, Tony Clark, threw in the towel on the negotiations. They said, we're done. These offers that keep coming in are nowhere close. And we're not going to negotiate anymore. Tell us where we have to play, when we have to report, and how long the season is going to be. Because the latest owner, the last offer that Major League Baseball offered the players, 72 games with a 30% pay cut. And if the playoffs are finished, and it's contingent on the World Series getting played and finished, players can maybe then you can get 10% more. So if everything goes perfectly, you'll get a 20% pay cut. You'll make 80% of what you're supposed to make if the postseason is finished. And in Major League Baseball, the players are fed up. They kept saying, we're not playing, we're not taking a second pay cut. And MLB owners kept throwing out pay cut, pay cut, pay cut, pay cut. And the players are frustrated. They threw in the towel. So guess what? Not only did the owners win by getting a massive deal, and then going to win again in 2 years when they get another massive deal from ESPN, not only are they continuing to set the bar for TV contract negotiations, now they got what they ultimately wanted with the season. They wanted a short season. They had no interest in 82 games, in 76 games, in 72 games. They got what they wanted with a short season, whether it's 48, whether it's 50, whether it's 54 games. So they got their cake, and they're eating it too. Because guess what was in the back of the owners' minds this entire time? All these negotiations going on, right? Every show we're talking about the new proposal from the players, new proposal from the owners that keeps getting rejected. And what the owners were leaning back on, what they knew was their trump card in the end, was that no matter what happens, if a deal ultimately does not get done, baseball is guaranteed to get played. Because let's go back to that March 26th agreement, right? This is the agreement that no one can agree upon what the parameters are and how they should go about it. So March 26th, let's just take you back really quick, give you a quick refresher. The players and the owners signed an agreement saying that the players will take a prorated salary for basically the amount of games played. So if there's 82 games, the players will get paid 82 games. And they signed away with that. Now, there's a clause in there that says if fans aren't allowed in the stands, which is going to be the case this season, that gives the owners and the players the right to go back to the negotiating table and negotiate a new deal that would financially be okay for the owners and the players. Basically meaning, if there's no fans in the stands, the players have to, in the owner's mind, take a second pay cut. But also in that agreement, it came down to if a deal cannot get done, right? If a new deal can't get done, if a new agreement can't come together where the owners and the players can't settle on a number, whether it's a cut percentage or whether it's the number of games played, Rob Manfred, the commissioner of baseball, can unilaterally decide how many games there are, assuming and as long as the owners, pay out the prorated salaries for the players. So Rob Manfred, if the owners agreed, let's say the season was 60 games. If the owners agreed, sure, we'll pay the players 60 games, then we'll give them their full prorated salary. Rob Manfred has the power as a commissioner to implement a 60-game season. So the entire time the owners and the players were negotiating, the owners knew in their back pocket, guess what? Rob Manfred's on our side, and whatever season he decides to implement is going to be a shorter one than what we're proposing. So they can propose 76 games, with massive pay cuts. They could propose 82 games with massive pay cuts, knowing one, the players won't take it because they don't want a second pay cut. And two, they knew that in the end, deal doesn't have to get done because guess what? We're going to get our way in the end. We're going to have a short season. If we can afford to pay players, 50 games, we're going to do it. We're comfortable with that. So we shouldn't be incentivized to get a deal done. Think about it. The owners were incentivized not to get a longer season done because they knew in the end, Rob Manfred would unilaterally decide, okay, listen, as long as you guys agree to pay the full freight, we'll play a shorter season. So while we don't have the exact number of games yet, the owners, the players, and us fans should prepare for a 48-game season, a 52-game season, a 50-game season, or maybe from the numbers I've seen, the largest or the longest season would be 54 games. So these proposals were dangled in front of us, like 72 games, 80 games, all dangled in front with pay cuts that the owners put in there knowing the players wouldn't accept it. You'll play 82 games. You want to play 82 games? Here's a 30% pay cut. Oh, you don't want it? Okay, we'll try again. Here's a 25% pay cut. All of these deals, if you break it down money-wise, basically equaled playing 50 games. And that doesn't make sense, right? I'll try to lay it out like this. If you play 82 games, let's say a 30% pay cut, that money you add up is guaranteed to be the same as 50 games with a full salary. So in the end, all the money that the owners kept trying to give the players, all these deals of longer seasons with pay cuts, all equal to be the same amount of money that it would be if you played a shorter season. So why would you play, if you're a player, 75 games for a salary that you would get playing 50 games? I understand you're a player, you want to play. But think about it. If your boss offered you a deal where it said you would get the same amount of salary whether you played 50 games or you worked, let's say you worked 5 days a week, right? Okay, you're going to get salary, you work 5 days a week for this month. Or I could say, here's a bigger sum. But you're going to have to take a pay cut. You're going to basically, in the end, it averages out to whether you work 5 days or not. I understand now I'm thinking about it, that was a terrible analogy. I apologize. I lost myself there. But essentially, what the owners were doing was offering salaries that equaled 50 games. Would any of you work more for salary that you would get if you just work less? No. So it's on the players, for them, it makes sense. That's why they're so frustrated, because every single deal, for the most part, the money would equal out to about the same they would make in a shorter season. So now, whatever season we have, and whatever, the MLBPA put a final date on it of today, where they want the owners and they want Rob Manfred to basically announce what the season length is going to be today. That's the deadline they put. We'll see if it happens. But now, owners will pay just about 31% of salaries that they're supposed to pay in 2020 if the season was obviously normal, if we didn't have a pandemic going on. Players are about to get 30% of their 2020 salaries. And you know who loses outside of just the players, obviously? The fans as well. Personally, I'm emotionally drained. I'm exhausted because these are good negotiations. Oh, we could get 80 games. Oh, we could get 75 games. Those still feel legit. In the end, all those proposals were shams because they knew the players wouldn't take it. And in the end, they knew that no matter what happens, if a deal's not going to get done, we're going to have a short season for salaries that we can afford. So might as well just try to play the game, try to tell everyone, oh yeah, we're trying our best. We want a long season. And then put these deals out there that make no financial sense for the players. So that's why the owners got their cake in 82. They got a massive deal from Turner on Saturday. They saw the MLBPA wave the white flag on Saturday night. So now not only are they padding their pocketbooks, padding their wallets the next 10 years of these massive deals, and we'll do so again when ESPN has to renegotiate their deal in 2 years. They're paying the players less salary and basically saving 70% of the payroll that they would have paid in the normal season. And here's the best news of all. Here is the topper that, as fans, you should get so excited for. Being sarcastic here, we get to do this all again. If you have followed these negotiations, if you're a baseball fan and you've just been frustrated, if you've been upset, if you've been angered with the way both sides have gone about this, guess what? I have great news for you. The CBA, the collective bargaining agreement, the agreement that basically that sets what the parameters are going to be, that sets what the salary is going to be, and basically is a work contract saying we'll play, and here are the parameters that both the players and the owners agree upon. That expires after the 2021 season. So guess what? We're going to do this all again after next season. And it's going to probably be a lot worse than it was this year. Because guess what? The owners can lock out the players. And who knows if a deal is ever going to get done.